Hello everyone, welcome to Crossdressing Chronicles. This channel will be focused on the art of crossdressing. All stories are made 100% by me. Many of these stories are based on true events that have happened to me in my adventures as a crossdresser. Enjoy! Since I was a little boy, I have loved birds and everything related to them. My family had a large collection of books about wild birds. I can remember that at home we had a pet canary. However, I didn't like to see him locked up in his cage. Even back then, I had the conviction that birds had to be in nature, never locked up. They were born to fly, and we humans had no reason to capture them and make them suffer. In fact, when our canary mysteriously escaped one day, I was happy because I wanted it to live in freedom. When I grew up, I decided to move for work. I found a good position in my field of study and moved to the big city of New York. There, I met new birds that I had never seen in my home state. I missed the native birds of my hometown and the surrounding area a bit, but I was also happy to meet different and new creatures, all of them colorful. I could now proudly say that I had seen with my own eyes birds of different colors, reds, yellows, browns, and even some blues. This was very interesting, as the color blue is not so present in the animal kingdom. All that variety of colors contrasted sharply with the areas of my daily life. For starters, I lived in a tall building that was mostly a metallic, lifeless color. Other monstrous buildings around were the same or even duller. To top it off, I lived on a lower floor, so I felt trapped by the mountains of concrete that surrounded me practically 24 hours a day. At my job, it was much the same. I worked 8 hours a day in an office that did not vary from white to gray. Not even the neon lights of the bars, pubs, or dance clubs that populated the city could change my perception. After all, those colors were purely artificial, created to attract customers. In short, my whole life seemed to be far away from nature, fresh air, and the warmth of the sun. Perhaps this is why I felt trapped in my own city. I felt surrounded by immense barriers that could never change. I know I should have taken this into account when I moved to New York City. I had no intention of changing jobs or cities. I was comfortable with my lifestyle. But I couldn't help thinking that I needed to make an effort to connect more with nature. Not surprisingly, for this goal, I focused on getting to know more about birds of my current state and my country in general. Growing up had not changed my interest in this regard. I felt that I empathized with those winged creatures. I wanted to feel more free, just as they wanted to fly away when they were caged. I had no bird books in my library. They had all been left at my parents' house. To compensate for this, I became a member of an association specializing in birds, their color, habitat, classification, and feeding habits. This group was full of friendly people who were always there if I wanted to ask for a book, photograph, or any information. Truly, they were wonderful people who made me feel accompanied in this big city full of lonely people. In addition, these groups organized excursions both around the city and in New York State. Occasionally, they would organize a tour to see birds in neighboring states. I had already traveled to a couple of tours within New York State and couldn't wait to fit my schedule and my vacation into a tour of another state in the country. One Thursday in the spring after work, I headed to the bird library. This library was owned by the association, donated by a kindly millionaire New Yorker who loved both books and animals. Thursdays were the best day to go. For some reason, people decided to go on Mondays or Fridays. On those days, searching for and getting a specific book was very difficult and frustrating. But that Thursday, the atmosphere was very pleasant. The air conditioning was working perfectly, and there was almost no people in the place. My intention was to find out a little more about the blue jay. As I said before, blue in animals is an exotic color, so any creature with that pigmentation was attractive to me. I searched for the letter B for blue, but found nothing. To look for books whose titles began with the letter J, I had to turn around to look on the other side of the shelves. Then I noticed that there was a poster on the wall. It caught my attention because of the colorful images of different birds. The sign said, in thick black letters, Second costume pageant. Come to the casting. You can be one of your favorite birds, win a prize, and help a bird sanctuary or national park that interests you. The first 3 places have prize money. There was an address and a date, which of course I wrote down. I noticed that the casting was the next day, and the contest was the following Sunday. What caught my attention was the word second. I had been a member for 3 years and had been visiting this library for at least 2.5 years. I don't remember there being a pageant the year before this one. The important thing was to have learned about this pageant just in time. I completely forgot about the book I was looking for. Already in my mind, I was planning to leave work a little early tomorrow to go to the casting. I wondered if I could choose the bird for my costume. If it were up to me, I would choose the eagle or any other bird of prey. Something that would express my strength, but also my love for these beautiful and majestic winged animals. As I walked home, I laughed in the street. I'm sure my mom would love to see me dressed as a bird. She would think it was cute. My dad would be equal parts embarrassed and proud, since he was an even bigger fan of birds. Perhaps it was better that we no longer lived in the same state, so I could dress up without a worry. Just as I opened the door to my apartment, I thought maybe I was getting a little ahead of myself. If there was a casting to be done, it meant that I had not yet been selected to participate. However, as I went to sleep that night, I was pretty confident that I was going to make it through the interview. When I woke up the next morning, my first thought was, dressing up as a bird is a bizarre idea. Yes, it was a very odd idea. But I couldn't help but want to go and be interviewed, at least to see if I was good enough to be selected. I got dressed and left for work. It was a very pleasant morning. My coworkers couldn't understand why I was so happy. When they found out that I had arranged with my supervisor to leave at noon, they thought that was the reason. The point is that I spent the whole morning imagining myself dressed as an eagle. I could visualize my huge black fabric wings unfurling on the catwalk. I felt that with that costume I could easily win the first prize. I left work and drove my car to the address indicated on the library sign. I arrived around 2 o'clock. I felt very hungry in my stomach. I decided not to eat anything so I wouldn't be late. As I parked and crossed the street, I realized I had made a good call. Surprisingly, the line was quite long. I even thought it was funny that there were so many people wanting to dress up in feathers. Then I laughed at myself, because I was one of those people. Perhaps the one who was most eager to participate in the contest. People were coming in and out, and I was getting closer and closer to the entrance of the building. As I entered, a lady told me that I had to go to the back of the hallway. A blonde girl came out of a room whose door said Bird Contest in black letters on the glass of the small upper window. I entered the room. A woman with long brown hair and a younger woman with short blonde hair were sitting behind a wooden table. The brown-haired woman motioned for me to sit down. "Good morning, miss. My name is Jane. I'm in charge of the costume contest." I was startled. It was true that my complexion resembled a woman's, including my face, and that my blonde hair reached below my shoulders. But I didn't expect to be mistaken for a girl. Jane sensed that I was confused and asked me if I had a problem. I shook my head. Both women went on, taking turns explaining to me what it was all about. A small group of selected women were going to wear dresses that mimicked different birds, such as a blue jay, an eagle, or a hawk. We were going to have a special pageant to determine the 3 winners, but not only the top 3 would be able to help the national park or bird sanctuary, which we would each be assigned by the organization for us to represent. They had created an app, which I downloaded right then and there, so that guests and patrons of the event could donate from their own pocket to the park or sanctuary represented by a particular contestant they liked. They could also donate money for the contestant herself. As they were telling me about the event, I began to imagine myself wearing a dress. I was a little embarrassed. It was at this point that I decided to stop Mia, Jane's assistant, who was explaining to me what the rehearsals for a pageant would be like. "Excuse me, but I'm not a girl. I'm a boy." I passed them my ID. They looked very surprised to read my real name. It was there that they explained to me that on this second occasion, they had decided that only women would participate. Last year, the event included men, but the costumes for them were horrendous. Jane assured me that this year's dresses were of high quality. She seemed genuinely relieved by this tidbit of information. She also explained to me that last year's event was experimental and smaller. I thought this was why I hadn't heard about the first contest. The fact that I was male perplexed them. I could sense that they wanted me to leave right away, but at the same time I felt that they liked me. They didn't want to offend my feelings. They asked me if I preferred any particular bird for the dress. I told them I wanted to be an eagle. They told me that the blonde girl who came out before me had gone with that bird. They asked me if despite having to wear a dress, I still intended to participate. I thought about it for a moment. In the end, I ended up saying yes. The idea of dressing up as a bird was bizarre enough. Wearing a woman's dress was minor in comparison. Finally, they asked me if I could wait outside the room for a few minutes. I smiled and said yes. I felt more excited than ever. I figured that dressing up as a woman wasn't such a bad idea. No one would recognize me. That is, there was no risk of anyone making fun of me for dressing up as a bird. I took a seat. Next to me sat a very pretty girl, with short, radiant red hair. She told me she was the last one who was going to be able to be interviewed. They had told all of the other girls to please leave. I felt lucky to be on time. She told me her name. Her name was Sonia, and she was from the city of Boston. She had tried to get into the last year's event, but couldn't coordinate her schedule. She asked me what my name was. I was about to say Peter, my real name, but in the end I ended up saying my name was Penelope. Penelope, huh? Nice name. I felt somewhat embarrassed. I think she could instantly recognize that I was actually a boy. I still didn't understand why I hadn't read that it was a girls-only contest. Maybe in my excitement, I didn't read everything the sign said. A couple of minutes passed. Mia came out and asked me to come back in. Jane seemed excited to see me. Once the three of us were seated, they explained that they had decided to accept me. They told me that I had already been assigned a bird for the costume. It was the peacock. When you think about it, it's a perfect idea, Jane began. The male peacock is more colorful than the female. It is he, not she, who displays his bright feathers to lure his desired mate. So for you to be a male and dress up as a peacock makes all the sense in the world, don't you think? What she was telling me made sense. I was a little disappointed that I couldn't dress up as an eagle, but at the same time, I was happy to have it confirmed that I had been selected. They explained to me that I had a hotel room available to be closer to the rehearsal site and the event hall. They were going to have to make some arrangements because I was a boy and the rooms were doubles and meant for a couple of girls, but not to worry. Finally, they asked for my information. Mia asked me if I had a female name that would serve as my stage name. After all, it would be weird to introduce me on the catwalk as Peter. I almost automatically said that my name could be Penelope. Both women looked at each other. They were surprised that I had already had a girl's name ready. Perhaps they were already imagining that I was in the habit of cross-dressing. But nothing could be further from the truth. At least so far. Before I left the room, they handed me the address of the hotel. I bid them farewell with a big smile. I was very grateful. Before leaving the building, I said goodbye to Sonia and wished her luck. I got in my car and headed home. I packed a suitcase with clothes. I was amused because the clothes I was putting away were boys' clothes. But I was going to spend the whole weekend dressed as a girl. I waited a couple of hours and headed for my assigned hotel. I told the front desk clerk what my name was and that I was in the costume contest. The girl looked surprised because the contestants were supposed to be women only. When I got my room, I received a call on my phone. It was Mia. She asked me to go to a beauty salon the next day to have my hair cut. She told me not to worry. Everything was covered by the event organization, just like the hotel room and my food. I needed my hair cut because I was going to get a blonde wig as part of my outfit. I thought it would be no big deal. We guys cut our hair all the time. The people in my office wouldn't suspect anything. The only thing I was a little afraid of was the waxing, but I thought it would be a necessary sacrifice. Girls waxed all the time and didn't go around complaining. Just as I hung up the phone, I heard high-heeled steps in the hallway. The door to the room opened. This was my roommate. It was Sonia, the girl from Boston, with her red hair and matching lipstick. "Hey Penelope, what's up?" she said, giggling. I waved back and helped her with her bags. After a few minutes, we agreed to go down to the hotel restaurant to eat dinner. Just as I was about to leave the room, she stopped me. Penelope, you're supposed to be a girl, aren't you? Let me help you make up your face so you look more beautiful. I assure you the other girls will envy you. I didn't know how serious she was, or if she was making fun of me, but the truth is that she helped me with both my face and my hair. She applied makeup, including soft eyeshadow and lipstick in a softer red color than hers. Finally, she helped me comb and straighten my hair. Then I asked her which bird she had been assigned. She replied that Jane and Mia had almost no imagination for her. They had given her the costume of the northern cardinal, also called red cardinal, or simply red bird. We laughed together at the obviousness of the choice. After fixing my hair, Sonia was able to touch up on her own makeup and do her own hair. She advised me to take off my male shirt and wear a more neutral t-shirt. After changing, we went downstairs to the restaurant. It was late enough for dinner, and there were several contestants already seated at the tables and eating chicken or salad. Sonia and I sat next to two other contestants. Neither of them seemed to notice that I was actually a male. We talked about our daily lives and the animals we were going to dress up as. One of the girls made me jealous because she was going to dress up as a peregrine falcon, one of my original choices. However, the same girl congratulated me on my fortune of being a peacock. They are so cute and colorful. Any woman would dazzle others if she had those feathers. Don't you think, girls? The four of us laughed. Sonia gave me a sidelong glance, as if to say, "You're going to dazzle everyone, girl." When Sonia and I finished eating, we tipped the waiter, who was looking at me sideways for an hour. We went up to the room and changed for bed. Before the lights out, I told Sonia about my haircut and waxing. She told me not to worry. It wasn't as bad as I imagined. Smiling at me, she told me to relax. We were going to have a long day tomorrow. I turned off the last light that was left on. Just before I fell asleep, I imagined a red cardinal and a peacock walking through the forest. Suddenly, both birds took flight. From the sky, as if I was holding a video camera from an airplane, I could see a crowd applauding the flight from the ground. I noticed Jane and Mia in the crowd. They were holding a dress with colors of peacock feathers. Thank you for watching the video. Part 2 will be coming shortly. Tell me what you think in the comments.